you. This is a very brief response. They asked us to spend about 5 minutes sharing about an issue in Milwaukee that was raised in the play that maybe I can shed a little bit more light. Again, my name is Martina Gollin-Graves, and I'm the president and CEO of Mental Health America of Wisconsin. We're a prevention and advocacy organization statewide. I had the opportunity to read the play before I came today, and I can't even tell you how moved I was sitting here today. And the reason it's so particularly moving for me is that my organization is one of very few in the country that provides support and services to parents living with mental illness. Oftentimes we hear about services and supports for individuals and for children who live with social and emotional issues, but very rare do we talk about in such a meaningful and poignant way about mental illness that impacts parents, so I like to call it parental mental illness, and the impact on families and children. And that's what really resonated. I think oftentimes in our society, we don't spend time thinking about the family unit in terms of mental illness. 1 in 4 individuals live with mental illness in our country or will have mental illness. And children who have a parent with mental illness are 4 times more likely to have a psychiatric disorder at some point in their life. And we heard that throughout the course of the play. In our community, right here in Milwaukee, if we think about all the issues that plague our community, extreme poverty, unemployment, poor educational systems. In a recent study talked about parents who are involved in the child welfare system. Over 80% had a mental illness. That's right here in Milwaukee County. And I think about families that are living with, parents who are living with mental illness. Oftentimes they lose their children at the rate of 70% loss. And that's not always the typical parent that you might think about. This may be a family member, this may be a neighbor. Oftentimes it's due to neglect, not egregious abuse. It's due to their symptomology and people not understanding. I like to say mental illness is not the casserole disease. People do not come to families' homes and offer support in the same way that we do when we hear about cancer or other physical ailments. And I just encourage us all to think about that for a moment. Families that live with mental illness need that support even more. They need someone to pick up the kids when they're not well. They need someone to bring over meals. They need someone to say, what do you need? Is it possible for me just to sit with you? What does your family need? We don't talk about mental health and mental illness in a way that people no longer feel shame. And that's, I think, the big message today, that I wonder about this family that we heard about today. If there had been supports and if someone had asked them what it was that they needed, if they would have reached out and had more support, if the child in the family would have had support sooner and would not have ended up learning that he was struggling with his own mental health. In our community here, because we are so divided and separate, we don't often think about others in the same way that we might around mental illness. And so the message for me today to you is that when you recognize someone who's struggling with their mental health, that sometimes they can't see the hope, and if you can just offer that beacon of hope until they're able to see that ray of hope, you've done wonders. So thank you again. Have a good evening.